Hello everyone. My name is Lacey Clem and I'm the Northwest Regional Coordinator from the Indiana State Library's Professional Development Office. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. We are pleased to have Mike Commons, Indiana Legal Help Manager, with us today to give us a session about Indiana legal help. I'd like to start off the webinar with a few announcements. To register for our other webinars and trainings available from the Professional Development Office, please see the Indiana State Library's events calendar, which can be found on our website at library.in.gov under Services for Libraries. For a full list of our current in-person training menu, please see our continuing education website. If there is a global sound issue during the webinar, we will announce it in the chat box. If you are unable to resolve the sound issue you are experiencing, we are recording the session and you can watch it offline after the meeting has ended. Again, if there is a global sound issue, we will make an announcement in the chat box. Also, make sure to set your chat to everyone in the chat drop-down menu so we can see your comments and questions. Mike will be doing a variation of answering questions as he goes and at the end, but I'll be monitoring the chat for any of those questions. Today's webinar will be archived and available on the Indiana State Library's archive trainings page after it has been transcribed. This session is worth 1 LEU, and I will be sending out certificates and a link to this presentation later this week or early next week. So without further ado, I will now turn the presentation over to Mike.
Thanks, Lacey and Lisa, and thank you to the Indiana State Library. I'm happy to be here today presenting to some of our most important partners, libraries and librarians. I did see some familiar names in the chat list from some trainings that I've given to our kiosk host partners. For those that I've not met before, hello. In the first half of the webinar today, I'm going to cover two topics that are specifically related to Indiana Legal Help and its functions. And then in the second half, I'll discuss legal information versus legal advice. And as Lacey mentioned, please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and she and I will do our best to answer them as we go along. So, hi, my name's Mike Commons. I'm the Indiana Legal Help Manager. I work for the Indiana Bar Foundation. And again, in the first half, the two topics that we're going to cover are what's Indiana Legal Help and what is our Housing Help Desk. When discussing Indiana Legal Help, I'm going to cover the basic functions of indianalegalhelp.org and what we do. And then regarding the Housing Help Desk, we'll discuss what the Indiana Legal Help Desk is and what functions does the help desk serve. So, what is Indiana Legal Help? IndianaLegalHelp.org was created in 2018 by the Indiana Supreme Court's Coalition for Court Access. The website seeks to connect Hoosiers to free and low-cost legal assistance, and it's a hub for self-help resources and information. Users of the site are typically self-represented litigants that are looking for legal information or free court forms or to connect with free legal aid organizations. You can access indianalegalhelp.org from any internet-connected computer or a smartphone. You can also access it through any of our 150 Indiana Legal Help kiosks, and I will talk a little more on those kiosks later. So to describe the functionality, by clicking on the Get Legal Help function, that little blue button there on the left, the user can then enter their county or zip code and get search results for legal aid organizations in their area. Now, this site is not intended to provide a recommendation on which organization to contact. Rather, it provides a list of available resources for site users to view to determine their next step. For example, here, the user searched for legal aid organizations in Marion County. Here is the information that they can view when they select a specific organization. In this example, the Indianapolis Legal Aid Society. They're provided with the organization's website, street location, phone number, days and hours of operation, what legal topics they can assist with, and the counties they serve. In addition to a list of organizations, users are also provided with a list of upcoming free legal clinics in their area. The user can see the clinics or events ordered by date, with the soonest listed first. When they click into a specific event, they can see what legal issue is being served at that clinic, which organization is assisting with that service, the date, time, and location of the clinic, and a Zoom link if the clinic is open to remote attendees. Also from the homepage, site users can see a list of the various legal topics with information, forms, and resources available on the site. If a user clicks into a legal topic, say housing, they're provided with a selection of legal issues within that topic. So a user could select rent and eviction, and they're provided the list of self-help forms we have on the site, as well as other helpful resources and tools related to the particular legal issue. If the user wanted to complete a self-help form, for example, an eviction sealing form, they could click that button and see a description of what the form is used for, and they can download the instructions and fillable PDF forms. So here is what a fillable form looks like, and the user will be able to either from the computer terminal they're on, from their smartphone, or from a kiosk, they'll be able to click into those fillable blanks and enter the information that would complete this form. And then, let's see, you can either save it at the PDF as a file on your computer or on a flash drive, or they can print them off if they are completing them from one of the 150 Indiana Legal Help kiosks. Here are pictures of the two different types of kiosks that we have placed around the state. The freestanding, which kind of resembles bank ATM there on the left, or the desktop version. And I will talk a little bit more about kiosks later. So what is the help desk? One of the most important features that we provide through Indiana Legal Help is the Indiana Legal Help Desk. The help desk is a way for self-represented litigants to ask questions to non-attorney legal navigators and receive legal information responses. The help desk is the most recent addition to the set of options that are available to the public when they come to indianalegalhelp.org. It accompanies the other functions that I just spoke about, which is attorney and legal clinic search function, the legal information and resources, and the self-help forms functions. Here we are again on the home page. You can see in the bottom right corner the little blue chat bubble. If a user clicks on it, the chat window will open and a conversation will begin with our chatbot. And at this time, that chatbot does not use any sort of artificial intelligence. The chatbot is set up to handle housing or non-housing topics, and the user is shown buttons for each option, so housing issue and other legal issue. If the user selects other legal issue, they will be provided several choices to select from that will give them shortcuts to the various other functions of the website mentioned before. And again, these options are find a lawyer, find a legal clinic, find legal information, and find a form. And as I showed previously, these buttons again will provide direct links into those particular functions that you can access from the homepage. If instead of selecting other legal issue, the user selects housing issue, they'll be provided information about ways they can be connected to the help desk navigators and during what hours the navigators are working the help desk live. The help desk has 5 different channels through which the public can submit questions: phone, live chat, text message, email, and web form. Our navigators use their practical knowledge from working for civil legal aid providers and from referencing our site and knowledge base to provide users with legal information that's aimed at helping them resolve their legal issue. Three of these, text, email, and web form, are available to receive questions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Whichever channel of those three the users send their message through, the navigator's messages will come back to them through that same method. So if the user selects text message, they'll be provided a telephone number that they can then text a question to. The navigators will receive that question, and when they respond to it, the navigator's response will come back to the user via text message as well. The same goes for email. The user is provided the opportunity to type in their question, provide their email address, and then the response will come back to that email address. The other two channels are currently only available during certain times of the day and certain days of the week. They're live chat and live phone calls. Live chat and live phone calls are available Monday through Friday, but only during the hours of 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at this time. And that's when the legal navigators are manning the help desk. A live chat works much like any live chat help desk on one of any number of companies' websites. The user and the navigator will have a back and forth conversation within the chat window until such time as the conversation has been completed. If the user selects live phone call, they'll be provided a telephone number. They can call that number and they're walked through some introductory information and then connected to a live legal navigator. So while the navigators work for civil legal aid providers, they are not attorneys and they cannot give legal advice in response to questions that are submitted to the help desk. At this time, the Indiana Legal Help Desk navigators are providing only legal information responses to housing questions. They have lots of information at their disposal to help inform users about the housing legal system. The typical questions that the navigators are responding to are focused on assisting tenants facing eviction, getting information so that they can speak with an attorney before their next court date, or getting information so that they can apply for emergency rental assistance in hopes that their landlord will accept these payments toward any unpaid or possible future rent. While we do get many questions about emergency rental assistance, the navigators do not work for the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority, the IHCDA, through whom the rental assistance applications are submitted. And our navigators can't give users specific information about their application for rental assistance or where their application is in its process. The navigators can, however, provide users with contact information for the IHCDA so that users may be able to get in touch with that agency themselves. Here's just some sort of anecdotal data that we thought was interesting. So we opened up the help desk for housing focused questions in early 2023, and we've got some data here regarding housing help desk tickets through the end of May of this year, 2024. We are tracking various different sets of data. Here's some of the more relevant or interesting stuff we've seen to date. The help desk has received over 1,500 housing tickets during this reporting period. 80% of those tickets were related to rent and eviction. 85% of the individuals submitting tickets were tenants. The top three methods or channels through which requesters submitted questions and engaged with the navigators were 30% of the tickets were communicated through text message, so that was the most popular method. 28% through the live chat on the website, and 20% by completing sort of a simple web form and submitting it with responses to follow by either a text or email. Another interesting piece of data of those requesters that responded to our satisfaction survey, 80% were female. We don't know if that means females are more likely to respond to surveys, or if it means that the vast majority of folks using the live chat, using the help desk, are female, but interesting nonetheless. To also focus on you all, our partners, we have a specific place on our website that's focused at you. At the bottom of every page on indianalegalhelp.org, in the footer, is a link to the partner resources page. So if you click on that, you can find many different resources that are focused on providing you access to information related to either kiosks, as well as to your efforts to help get the public connected to Indiana Legal Help. On the left is a list of kiosk resources that are focused on our partners that have one of the 150 kiosks placed in their location. And again, I noticed in the chat, I saw at least a few names of individuals that I know are one of some of our kiosk host partners. If you click on the button, you can review information there. So the kiosk host knowledge base, that's a website that provides kiosk users with lots of different information. So videos on how to help users find certain information on the website, videos and FAQs on how to operate a kiosk, videos and manuals related to the kiosk printer, some sample signs and language for promoting and directing users to your kiosk, along with more. Kiosk hosts are also able to click on the kiosk assistance button there to be connected to a web form that they can complete to submit and create a kiosk support help ticket. And that allows us to start a communication between the host and our help desk manager, figure out what the issue that the kiosk is facing, so that we can sort of get it back into working order as quickly as possible. There's also a kiosk supply request button there for toner or paper for the kiosks. On the right-hand side, you can find links to download various flyers and handouts that we've created to promote either the kiosks, but also functions of Indiana Legal Help in general. And any of these free handouts can be downloaded and printed to be shared with folks that are using indianalegalhelp.org. This includes the new free legal help flyer listed on the bottom right there, which contains a QR code to indianalegalhelp.org. It contains a telephone number for the Rural Legal Assistance Hotline, where callers can call and speak directly with the attorney that answers the phone, and they can discuss any civil legal issue. And then a QR code also to the Indiana Free Legal Answers website, which is something that's accessible from the main homepage, and it takes users to a website where they can create an account, a free account, to submit emailed questions to a listserv. And attorneys also have accounts with the same website, and those attorneys are able to log in, access the queue of questions that have been submitted, and they can search based on area of practice, and then the attorney can then take somebody's question and provide a direct legal advice response to that user. And so then a user is able to get their specific legal advice question answered directly from an attorney, but it's an easy sort of limited scope contact, and it doesn't create an attorney-client relationship. So it's a way for attorneys to get some pro bono credit by hopping in and taking these questions from the public. You can also click on the kiosk locations map and see a map showing where all 150 of our kiosks are located around the state, with at least one in each of the 92 counties. If you scroll further down on the partner resources page, you can see a short video describing all the features of indianalegalhelp.org and yours truly. In the helpful resources list on the right-hand side, you can also find a link to the Indiana Supreme Court's web pages that are dedicated to providing direction about understanding the difference between legal advice and legal information. Let's see. Got a couple of questions here. Let me read those real quick just to see if it's something like that. Okay. 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 So a couple of questions. Both are focused on ability to get a kiosk placed, cost, et cetera, et cetera. At the current time, we only have 150, and they're all currently placed. We are in the process of having those sites sort of re-up for the next, I think I'm not sure the length of time, but re-up for another time period to be hosts. And if there are sites that choose not to re-up, then we do have the ability to relocate those. And so we're certainly taking names and taking locations to best know where we might send one that needs to be relocated. Ginger is absolutely right. We did first offer them to courthouses, and plenty of courthouses said yes. Plenty said no, and said that we think it's better in the library, or we think it's better in like another community social service agency location. But nonetheless, courthouses and libraries are far and away our largest partners. So yes. A question about Niche Academy. I'm not familiar with what Niche Academy is, and so we don't have a video on that, but we do have videos, and so if you want to have videos that you can use to advertise this particular our website, etc., yeah, we're happy to work with you to help share those videos. So I am going to switch over now and show you slides that have been shared with me from staff with the Indiana Supreme Court's Office of Court Services, and they're going to cover the topic of legal information versus legal advice. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the link on the partner resources page will take you to the Indiana Supreme Court's legal information guide. And so we're going to discuss today understanding the difference between legal information and legal advice. So the basic principle of the American justice system is that everyone has the right to go to court, no matter who they are or how much money they have. It's about making sure that anyone can seek help or fairness through the legal system. Most people aren't familiar with how courts work or what to do when they need to go to court. They often need some help to understand the process and navigate the system. People are denied justice if they don't know how to use the court system and don't get the help they need from the courts. Without guidance, many cannot effectively seek the fairness or protection that they deserve. Sure I didn't skip a slide. Yes, okay. So legal information. So the legal information guide, again, that is shared from the Indiana Supreme Court's website, discusses both what legal information is as well as what legal advice is. Legal information refers to the guidance and instructions provided to help non-lawyer intermediaries, such as court staff or librarians, in assisting the public with basic questions about the court system. These intermediaries are often the first point of contact for people who are unfamiliar with legal procedures and need help understanding how the judicial system operates. By equipping these non-lawyers with accurate and clear information, they can effectively guide individuals on what steps to take and where to find further help. This ensures that even those without legal representation have a better chance of navigating the court system successfully. The Legal Information Guide serves as a critical tool for these intermediaries, helping them to distinguish between providing helpful information and inadvertently offering legal advice. which could have unintended consequences. The guide underscores the importance of directing individuals to seek legal counsel when their issues go beyond basic procedural questions or require specialized knowledge. This approach not only protects the public, but also helps non-lawyer intermediaries stay within their professional boundaries, ensuring that they provide the most appropriate and lawful assistance possible. Additionally, folks can always be referred to free resources, forms, and information provided at indianalegalhelp.org. Plug, shameless plug. Here is a QR code that y'all can scan that will take you directly to the legal information guide. I might put this up later, but I'll give you all 5 seconds here to take a screenshot or a picture with your phone. Okay. So what is the practice of law? The practice of law involves activities that go beyond simply providing information. It includes negotiating legal rights on behalf of another person, giving legal advice, and appearing in court for someone else. It's impossible to list all the activities that constitute practicing law, but these examples highlight some of the sort of specialized nature of legal work. When someone engages in these particular activities without being a licensed attorney, they're committing the unauthorized practice of law, which is a Class B misdemeanor. Distinguishing between providing legal information, which is general guidelines and facts, and giving legal advice is crucial to avoid crossing into the unauthorized practice of law. So here are some rules of thumb. Legal information provides general details about the law and consists of factual information that helps you understand legal concepts and processes. For instance, if you've got a question that starts with who, what, when, where, or how, such as what is the process for filing a claim, you can usually find answers through legal information resources like websites or brochures. In contrast, legal advice involves personalized guidance that requires a judgment call based on the specific facts of your situation and the applicable law. Questions that start with should or would, such as, should I file this claim, or would it be beneficial for me to negotiate a settlement, fall under the realm of legal advice. While legal information helps you grasp general legal concepts, if someone's seeking tailored recommendations to make informed decisions about their individual case, this is legal advice and must be provided by an attorney. So what is legal information? Legal information consists of general factual details about the law and how the legal processes work. So it includes providing guidance on where to find free or low-cost legal assistance from various organizations, making legal help more accessible, offering a general overview of the court process, helping you understand what to expect during legal proceedings. Additionally, it can involve directing folks to sources for legal forms and other resources, such as those available on indianalegalhelp.org, and may assist you in selecting, a form based on the topic described. So, for example, if someone said, I want to file for divorce, and you go to indianalegalhelp.org with them, and you select family and safety, and you select divorce, it's going to provide you with a list of 4 different potential form packets: divorce with children with agreement, divorce with children without agreement, divorce without children with agreement, and divorce without children without agreement. And so you can ask the simple question, do you have any children? If they say yes, you can say, do you and your spouse agree on how you want to settle up everything? If they say no, you can say, well, it sounds like divorce with children without agreement is the form packet you'll want to select. That would not be considered legal advice. You can also review, help with reviewing the forms or legal papers to ensure that they are completely filled out. So let's see. I guess let's chat about some examples. So if somebody then is starting to fill out that divorce with children without agreement, and they ask you, well, what am I supposed to write in this line? Well, if the form provides the instruction that says, list all of your assets, then you can say to them, you need to list the things that you own in this space here. And if they say something like, what, did I fill this out right? You look at it, and if it says list your assets, and what they've done is they've listed the names of people, so like the names of their kids and the names of their parents, you can say, what this asks for assets. Are these the things that you own? Because it looks like you've named people here. And so again, you're not providing them legal advice. You're asking them and helping them understand, did they fill this form out correctly? Okay, so we've got a question here from a couple of questions from Jennifer. I'll answer the first one later. This one says, "What about assisting someone filling if they aren't comfortable typing it?" So, Jennifer, help me understand. Is the question about handwriting out the form? I'm not sure what specific assistance are we talking about. Are we talking about like physical assistance completing the form, or are we talking about understanding concepts? Physical assistance. Okay, so as a non-lawyer intermediary, you can always act like a machine, a robot, if you will. And if they say to you, like, for example, let's say someone has a literacy problem, and they're not able to write words, and they don't know how to spell things correctly, right? If they say to you, I want you to write in this space the following words, I own a 2005 Toyota Camry. You're able to write the words, I own a 2005 Toyota Camry. You have done nothing. You certainly are not providing legal advice, and you're not doing anything other than acting as a machine. You're writing exactly the words they told you to write. So there isn't anything wrong with that. If they're telling you what to put in the spaces, and you're helping them get those words into those spaces, that's perfectly acceptable. You are not providing any advice whatsoever. You're merely providing physical assistance. So if that's the question, yes, you certainly, as a non-lawyer intermediary, are able to provide physical assistance in completing the form. Legal advice is mostly going to be focused on providing assistance with them knowing what to write, helping them decide between the many, many different possible options they have of what to put there, what is best to put, what might be most advantageous to them to put, what might be a bad thing to put. All of those types of assistance would be the kinds of things that fall into the category of legal advice. So that's a great question. So some other examples of legal information might be they've got a question about how do I know how much time I have to file this particular document, and if you're able to locate the particular rule, trial rule or administrative rule that talks about, plaintiffs have this many days to respond. You can direct them to the rules and say, it sounds like, the question you've asked me is about how much time do you have? This rule talks about time. Your answer, you might be able to find your answer in here. And so, directing someone to rules, directing them to statutes, sharing with them what a statute says, all of those things are providing legal information versus legal advice. Okay. So what is legal advice? Well, legal advice involves applying the law to an individual's specific situation. offering recommendations on what actions to take, and interpreting how the law might affect them personally. So unlike legal information, which is general and factual, legal advice requires professional judgment. It can only be given by a licensed attorney. Allowing only lawyers to give legal advice is crucial because it protects the public from receiving incorrect or harmful guidance. Lawyers are trained extensively in court practices, case law, statutes, and the many nuances of the legal system. They're also bound by the Indiana rules of professional conduct, which ensures that they provide competent, ethical, and responsible advice. This training and ethical oversight are essential to safeguarding the rights and interests of individuals seeking legal help. Providing legal advice without these qualifications risks not only the accuracy of the guidance, but also legal penalties for the unauthorized practice. So here are a sort of a list of some specific actions that a non-lawyer intermediary may not do. So you may not represent a person in court. You may not perform legal research for a member of the public. And again, as I mentioned before, in several places on indianalegalhelp.org, we provide a specific statute code citation for the laws that apply to this to a particular form or a particular area of law. And so, again, we're doing, as I mentioned before, something that is just providing legal information. This is the statute that applies to this particular area of law. And so if you, in your work assisting an individual, will say, well, it looks like this is the statute, you click on the statute and it pulls up and there are words there, right? So you can show them the statute, right? But that's not legal research. Legal research would be trying to figure out, oh, are there cases that talk about your particular issue? And what have courts done when they've faced your particular issue before? That might help you understand how you might want to deal with your own situation. And so that would be performing legal research, and that's a no-no. Let's see, drafting legal documents for another person. Okay, so drafting legal documents as a concept versus helping somebody complete a legal document. What's the difference? Well, as I mentioned before, if you're merely sort of operating as a dictation machine and you are writing the words they tell you to write, you're not drafting the legal document. If you're helping them understand what the instructions say to a legal form, all of our legal forms, free court forms on indianalegalhelp.org, either come in two sets, one that's blank and one that's with instructions, or they're in a new combined form where the blanks have instructions sort of embedded within the form. And so reading off the instructions to somebody to assist them in deciding for themselves what's supposed to go in this space, what words do I want to write in this space, again, that's not drafting the legal document. If you're starting from scratch and you are deciding what words do I want to write down to help them prepare their document, that's going to be drafting a legal document. You also cannot assist in investigating facts of a litigant's case. So while what I mentioned before, somebody comes to you and say they want to file for divorce and they need a form, asking them, do they have children, and asking them, do they and their spouse agree on how the case is going to be settled, is not investigating facts, because you're not asking those questions to help them understand how might they want to go about solving their issue. Instead, it's just to help you know which particular form packet to direct them toward. Okay, but if you're asking them questions about, well, what did he say to you, or what did he do to you, or did he, what have the children been facing during this particular issue? And if you're asking these questions, you're going to be investigating the facts, and that's not something that you can do. You can't provide legal advice. Again, that's sort of that's a truism, but it's, again, you can't do the things that I mentioned before that qualifies legal advice. And you also can't provide an interpretation of a law, an interpretation of a case or a judicial opinion, and you can't provide interpretations of what guidelines are. So again, there are rules out there, there are guidelines. So for example, the Indiana Parenting Time Guidelines. You can show them what the guidelines say, You can even read the words to them if they've got difficulty reading or understanding, but you can't tell them what that means. You can't interpret it for them. Okay, so you can lead them to what the factual information is. You just can't apply it to their particular circumstance or interpret it for them. Okay, what else? Here are some more specific things that would sort of cross the line into the practice of law. Answering questions that call for an opinion about what a person should do. So again, generally questions that start with would or whether or should are going to be these kinds of questions, and you want to avoid those. Advising whether or not a person should file a particular case or give an opinion on what's going to happen if the case is brought to court. You can't do that. And as a matter of fact, most times even lawyers won't tell their clients what's going to happen if somebody takes a case to court, in the sense that, like, lawyers aren't able to predict what a judge is going to do. And so lawyers are also cautioned against telling their clients, this is what a court's going to do, right? And so if lawyers can't do it, for sure, non-lawyer intermediaries should not be doing that. You can't advise them what to say in court, okay? This is perhaps better phrased as you can't advise them on what exactly to say in court. If you've got a court form in front of you, like, and again, I'm going to stick with the same theme, filing divorce. If the form is asking the person completing it to list the reason why they want to do something in their case, you can advise them that telling the court the things in this piece of paper are important. The court needs to know this information, right? So, telling them to tell the court about everything that's in their form, well, that's going to be okay, right? But if you sort of focus on anything in particular, or say, oh, be sure you got to mention this or you got to mention that, you don't want to do that. That's going to be, again, focusing on their specific circumstance, their specific case, and the facts that are specific to their circumstance, and that's going to sort of fall into the advice process. You cannot talk to a judge about a case on behalf of a person. Thankfully, librarians are almost never the ones that fall into this category. This would sort of a more focused on like clerk staff that work in the courthouse. They can't talk to the judge about a particular case on behalf of someone. Also, you shouldn't be telling somebody what words to use when they create or complete a form. And again, the distinction that I'm making here with regard to the specific example I gave you before is like, if you're telling them, well, this says that you need to put your name here, and they say, and they write the word pumpkin, then you're going to need to ask them a question. This looks like it says, put your name here, and you've written pumpkin. Do you think that answers that particular question or follows that direction very well? And again, asking questions of somebody is not providing advice. Okay, so helping them get the right answer, meaning what the instructions are calling for, is not providing legal advice, right? Telling them exactly what to write, that's going to be what falls into legal advice. I know some of this for sure sounds like a sort of a fine line that you're walking. And I think what generally I would say is if you're asking questions, if you're helping them do what the form says or do what is already written to tell them what to do, you're generally not going to be providing advice. You're merely helping them with information. Okay. If you're more specifically listening to their story, hearing about their specific situation, and then using those specific facts that are unique to them to help them complete something that's best suited for them, that's something that more sounds like advice. Let's avoid that. So now we'll look at some examples of what legal advice would look like versus legal information. So for example, If someone wanted to know about a court rule or a common practice or procedure, legal information involves describing common, regularly used court procedures, court rules, and administrative practices, providing a broad understanding of how these elements generally operate. Okay, this might include details about standard court processes or typical administrative practices. Okay, however, legal advice goes a step further by interpreting what the rules, procedures, or practices mean for a specific person's situation and suggesting which rules or procedures they should follow. While legal information helps them understand the general framework, legal advice offers personalized guidance tailored to their individual case, ensuring that they navigate the legal system effectively based on their circumstances. If someone wanted to know about a particular statute or procedural law, legal information involves explaining or showing where to find specific statutes or procedural rules, helping them locate the relevant texts or regulations. This type of information guides them on how to access and identify the laws or rules that might be pertinent to their situation. On the other hand, legal advice involves analyzing or interpreting how a particular statute or procedural rule applies to their individual circumstances. While legal information provides the tools to locate and understand the legal texts, legal advice offers tailored insight on how those laws or rules impact their specific case. If someone needs help with court forms, legal information involves making copies of forms available, answering basic questions about how to complete them, providing general assistance on the process of filling out the documents. This might include explaining the purpose of different sections on the forms or offering guidance on how to access and use a form. In contrast, legal advice involves more personalized assistance, such as deciding for them what words to put into the form, advising them on the specific words to use or information to include, or guiding them on what to say in court. While legal information helps them understand and obtain the forms, legal advice provides detailed, individualized support to ensure their forms are completed in a way that will help them best for their case. If someone needed help with a court order, legal information involves providing a person with a copy of a pleading or a court order related to their case, giving them access to the official documents they need. This type of information helps them obtain and review the relevant paperwork. In contrast, legal advice involves explaining the meaning of a court order and how it specifically affects their situation. So, for example, there's a website, mycase.in.gov, where individuals are able to create an account and log in and see and download digital copies of their court records, their case records. Okay, helping somebody get their own case records, helping them get copies of them so that they can review them. That is not legal advice. That's legal information, or helping them get copies of things. If they get a copy of it and it's a court order and they're reading it and they go, I don't understand this, and you read it and you tell them what it means, well, you might be providing legal advice. And so that's definitely something you're going to want to say. You need to go talk to an attorney. If you don't feel like you understand what this says, then you should talk to an attorney to help you understand what this means. Let's see. While legal information ensures that they have the necessary documents, legal advice offers personalized clarification on what the court order entails and how it impacts their case, ensuring that they understand its implications and how to respond. So those are for lawyers to do. So what are some strategies for answering difficult questions? Because let me tell you right now, while I may have gone over various different examples of types of situations you may face, almost always in reality, they're much more narrower and borderline cases of like, wow, I'm not really sure. I know Mike's talked about this and he's talked about that, and that's really helpful, but this feels like I'm still not sure what to do. Well, when you're facing these difficult questions, some effective strategies begin with listening closely and asking follow-up questions to ensure that you fully understand what's being asked. If necessary, repeat, rephrase the question to clarify your understanding. Being an active listener and responding reflectively helps build rapport and ensures that you address the question accurately. It's also crucial to be patient and trauma informed, recognizing that coming to court or handling their legal case can be a stressful, confusing, and intimidating experience for those folks. Remaining calm, even if the litigant becomes upset, can help to de escalate the situation, as they may simply need an opportunity to vent their frustrations. Additionally, explaining the reasons we've been discussing as to why certain information cannot be provided helps to minimize frustration and manage expectations effectively. As I mentioned earlier, the reason why there is a misdemeanor criminal statute on the books for unauthorized practice of law is to protect the public. It's to protect individuals who are seeking assistance and seeking advice from getting bad advice, from getting advice from individuals who aren't trained and have no ethical duty to only provide proper advice. Okay. And so if somebody's upset, frustrated that you're not able to do more, not able to help them in the way that they want to be helped, it may be useful to describe to them that, like, if you provide advice and you're untrained, your advice may cause them bigger problems than they're already in. And so, for their own good, you're unable to provide them the kind of advice that they're seeking. And the reason why we would direct them to speak with an attorney is because attorneys have that training and have that experience and also have the ethical duty to provide advice that is in line with what the laws say. And again, on indianalegalhelp.org, the number one service that we direct people to utilize is to get legal help and to get connected to an attorney. And there are numerous legal aid offices around the state whose sole purpose is to provide free legal advice to the members of the public. And so use us, use our resources. If what they're looking for truly must be advice, then use our resources to help get them connected to an attorney who can do that part. Okay, so in conclusion, I think it's important to remember that there are numerous examples on the Supreme Court's website that illustrates the distinction between legal information and legal advice. When individuals seek legal help, they often pose questions that cannot be adequately answered by anyone other than a lawyer, as they frequently require personalized legal advice. It is perfectly acceptable to acknowledge when you do not know the answer, as providing no information is oftentimes better than offering incorrect or misleading advice. By understanding and communicating these boundaries clearly, you can help manage expectations and ensure that individuals receive the precise guidance they need. Remember, the goal is to provide accurate information where possible and direct individuals to appropriate legal resources when specialized advice is necessary. Again, here is that QR code I showed earlier. This will take you directly to the Indiana Supreme Court's website for the legal information guide, where much of the information from this particular half of the training comes from, so that you can, again, refamiliarize yourself with some of the differences between the two. And then lastly, here are email addresses and phone numbers for me and for Jason Thies, who is our housing help desk and kiosk manager. You can always contact us by email or phone if you want to discuss indianalegalhelp.org. If you happen to be one of our kiosk hosts and your kiosk is having trouble, here's the QR code you can scan that will take you to the web form that you can submit for your problems. And as I mentioned before, the kiosk support web form link can also be found on the partner resources page. That's your first step in contacting us if you've got problems with your kiosk. I want to, again, thank the Indiana State Library for this opportunity to talk with all of you, all of our library partners across the state, and thank you for your time. And if anyone has any questions related to today's topic or otherwise, let's see, we've got some chat. Okay, so we've got something here. Let's see. Wait just a second. So let's start with Sarah's comment about staff not doing what they can do because they're unsure. And I absolutely, so one of the important reasons for providing this training today is that there is so much that non-lawyer intermediaries can do to help folks. There's so much that can be done. First and foremost, directing them to indianalegalhelp.org if they need to just do something as simple as find a court form or find information about their particular topic, or get connected to a lawyer, either directly through an organization or through a legal clinic. Okay, again, that's a great sort of list of things that non-lawyer intermediaries can do, but also all the particular examples I mentioned before as to what additional things that can be done if they don't need to, get directed to somebody else. They just want to have some simple assistance locating something. So locating information is definitely something that folks can do. And building up confidence within your staff to be able to do that, I think, is critical. Let's see. Okay, so Yvonne's got a question here. What if we complete a form and later they deny what we wrote is what they conveyed? So the legal form itself is never going to have your name on it, right? It's never going to have any sort of documentable evidence that it was you that filled this out, okay? Instead, it's going to have their signature at the bottom saying, everything I set up here is true and correct to the best of my knowledge, right? This typically what you're going to find in a court form is some sort of attestation, and they will have signed that, right? So, you know, everyone who is a non-lawyer intermediary needs to, take their own temperature about how far they want to go in assisting someone. What I'm telling you is what would qualify as legal information versus legal advice. I'm certainly not at all telling you what you have to do. Right? You do not have to act as the dictation machine. They tell you what words to write. You write the words. Right? You can sort of make that call yourself how far you want to go in assisting someone. But at the end of the day, they're gonna have submitted. It's like I'm wondering who it is they're denying to. Right? Are they denying it to the court? Are they denying it to their opposing party? They're denying it to you? Not sure. If they're denying it to the court, the point is when they submit that document to the court, they are saying these are my words, and so turning around and saying, well, those aren't my words. The court's going to have a difficult time wanting to say, okay, yeah, you can tell me these things, but then are you going to turn right around the next day and say, no, you didn't just tell me those things? So that's something a court will deal with, but it's unlikely to be beneficial for a person to say something to the court and then to turn around and say, well, that's not what I'm saying to you. Let's see. I'll let Lacey answer the question about PowerPoint. I haven't given Lacey a copy of this, but there she's already answered it. There we go. And thank you. Kathy says theirs is at a courthouse. Hopefully it's useful there. Hopefully people are getting some use of it. And it's good to know where your local kiosk is. Now, I tell people that the kiosks don't really do anything different than the website itself does, with one exception, which is kiosk has a printer on it, right? And so if somebody's accessing the websites from their phone, well, they obviously can't print from their phone, right? But if they are accessing it from a terminal that they do have the ability to print from, then the kiosk really isn't giving them something more than they would get from that printer connected device. So, yes.
Well, thank you so much, Mike.
Mhm.
This information is always needed because we do get a lot of people coming into the library for legal help, even though we
Mhm.
can't, you know, there is a line of what we can and can't do.
Mhm.
But I will be sending out a copy, like a PDF copy of the PowerPoint along with the link and the LEU. So don't worry about uh I don't have a form to fill out for the LEU, but I'll make sure that everybody that has attended this session gets one. And if you have any further questions, you can always contact Mike or email them to me and I'll get them to him and we'll make sure you get the answer. But thank you so much for coming on to do this, and the information is always very well needed.
Lacey, one last plug. If any of you individuals want to contact me about the potential for providing trainings on the website and this kind of information directly to you or your staff, I'm happy to work with you, whether that's directly with you, or maybe there could even be a sort of a group of libraries or a group of branches or whatever that want to work together. And I'm happy to get connected and provide training, because again, libraries are some of our most important partners, where they come in contact with, as Lacey said, with individuals who are seeking that assistance. And so the better we can do in helping you folks on the front lines know how to get assistance, then the more it helps those individuals. So I'm happy to work with you, and my email address is there. Okay, I think we're done. All right, Lacey?
Yep. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lacey. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, everybody. Good to see you again.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.